Hey guys, PayDroV here. So I want to touch on this real quick before I start talking about the other topics. Since it's all connected via technology and we are entering this digital age system where we are more easily controllable. Around August 11th, TMZ uploaded a video with Akon talking about his futuristic city to come to life and how it resembles Wakanda from the Black Panther.
I always dreamed about it, but didn't know that it was possible, obviously. But as time went on, things got better. My energy company was super successful. So I was able to accumulate a group of friends that I was able to raise this money with and actually build the city. It's be one of many throughout all of Africa, starting in Senegal. So we plan to literally franchise the city.
I imagine I'm not the first person to say this, but people will look at those renderings and they will think Wakanda, that you have created you are building a real Wakanda, something that was just, the vision of a movie. But now you seem to be doing that in real life, and it is remarkable.
No, it's actually amazing, man, especially for what Wakanda, the film, did. But this movie literally made an idea of what Africa could really be and what it could really look like for the future. It was just ironic that I was already working on this before the movie actually came out. But I would definitely say it was something that helped me a lot in a big way from a standpoint of trying to explain to people what I was trying to do.
Even after his character was killed off, Akon came out even more talking about Akon City being just like Wakanda. This is all manifesting this into people's lives.
So this project, we're looking at Akon City as to become the beginning of Africa's future. And our idea here is to build a futuristic city that incorporates all the latest technologies, cryptocurrencies, and also the future of how African society should become in the future. So I wanted to build a city or a project like this that will give them the motivation to know that there is a home back home. When this project came about, it was actually before the movie. But when the movie came, it almost was like a blessing. It's almost like God allowed this movie to be successful, for me to be compared to such success, to give people that mind state that this could be possible in Africa. And it also motivated us too when we were creating the city from an architectural standpoint, that it has to feel and it has to be futuristic.
The reason why they're ushering more of this is because they are preparing to bring us into the system. And I believe the system is carried with many agendas, including a cashless society, the chip, the mark of the beast, mandatory vaccinations, etc. Coincidentally, Elon Musk came out as well advertising the brain chip. A video uploaded by CNET shows Elon Musk going into detail on how this brain chip works on a pig, and I believe this is programming because this is all going to come back to us and be forced upon you and me.
Great. Okay, this is a high energy pig. All right. See, probably see that. As I was saying, each of those dots represents a neural spike, and the blue chart at the bottom is showing an accumulation of neural spikes in that region. This is our little device. That thing at the bottom is just to hold the threads in place, because they're just like little fine wires. So in terms of getting a link, like I said, it's essentially you open a piece of skull, you remove about a coin-sized piece of skull, and then the robot inserts the electrodes. Then the device replaces the portion of skull that was removed, and we basically close that up with actually super glue, which is how a lot of wounds are closed, and then you can just walk around right afterwards. It's pretty cool. I mean, it's more complicated than this, but in a lot of ways, it's kind of like a Fitbit in your skull with tiny wires. So, and we actually ultimately want this robot to do essentially the entire surgery. So, in everything from incision, removing the skull, inserting the electrodes, and we feel confident about getting the link procedure, the installation of a link, done in under an hour. So you can basically go in the morning and leave the hospital in the afternoon.
Now slowly we are entering a cashless society, as I mentioned earlier, and they are slowly programming this through every aspect you can think of.
While the COVID-19 pandemic is forcing countless retailers to rely on online sales, this Amazon concept encourages the opposite. Amazon says the grocery store will utilize its new Dash Cart, which lets customers skip the checkout line, along with Alexa to tell shoppers where certain items are located.
This is a response, I would imagine, to Walmart actually making gains on online e-commerce. So this is sort of an area that Amazon really wants to be involved in. The grocery industry is a $1 trillion industry annually.
Amazon's use of new technology is a plus, especially during the pandemic.
The less amount of human contact that we have when we go out, the better.
The pandemic has increased social isolation, and loneliness has been on the rise. Millions of people have turned to artificial intelligence apps or chatbots to look for companionship. They can be chosen for friendship or intimacy and have been designed in a sophisticated way to learn from each interaction. One popular chatbot is called Replica. The San Francisco-based startup, which has 7 million users, has seen a 35% increase in traffic since the coronavirus pandemic. The company's co-founder and chief executive, Eugenia Koida, has said Replica is designed to make people feel better. Scientists argue that AI chatbots have many limitations and can't be creative or express that feeling of sincere empathy or compassion. But as it becomes more sophisticated, can AI be an answer to loneliness? And can it offer some kind of companionship?
Yeah, I think this is really interesting, and I think we are seeing that AI is becoming obviously much more sophisticated in these chatbot sorts of platforms. We're not quite at the Black Mirror science fiction level yet, but we can see that things like Replica and other sorts of platforms can help with loneliness, but I think we have to be really clear about what the differences are and the massive gulf is between real human social interactions and what we might get from...
Yeah, have you seen that movie with Joaquin Phoenix called Her, in which he falls for his chatbot? It is frightening. It can be frightening.
Yes, and we certainly get our imaginations going with science fiction depictions of what AI might be in the future. But of course, I don't think anyone would seriously say that the capabilities of that technology is anything like what we're seeing in films yet.
Here's how they are doing it in the gaming and gambling world.
Steve, now this technology isn't necessarily new. In fact, the D here in downtown Las Vegas has implemented it since late 2019, but the coronavirus pandemic has certainly put forth its relevance. In the onset of the pandemic, the American Gaming Association urged casinos to push for cashless solutions. And in late June, the Nevada Gaming Control Board green-lighted the new rule changes to make cashless systems more prevalent. But the CEO and founder, Stephen Warner, says this technology could impact the industry well beyond COVID.
And then they go after our needs, habits, and addictions.
And that means we have been able to have all of these extra spacing for COVID-19.
It's one of thousands of churches across the city that have been forced to adapt, providing services to churchgoers with technology during lockdown.
We're very thankful that in this day and age we've been able to have that community online and with different discussion groups using technology. But people are looking forward to coming back, and we've had about 50% of people coming back, and others who need to shield or are unable to come back for other reasons, staying at home. And we want to be able to serve both groups of people really well. So we'll be having services in the building, and we'll be having people at home on the live stream as well.
There is an assault on people of faith. I happen to think personally it has to do with the idea that faith teaches that there's a singular objective truth, one that is in conflict with the kind of economic, political, and social philosophies that you get if you follow Mao Zedong or if you follow Karl Marx. And I think that there's an idea that institutions of faith need to at least be co-opted by the state, if not pushed into the back of American society where they cease to be influential. That again is dangerous. We have a protection in the Constitution prohibiting any laws that impede the free exercise of religion. And I would argue, and I think you'll see some cases on this, that the prohibitions on church gatherings violate that constitutional provision. And I hope that the officials responsible will be sanctioned.
Yeah, and you're making a great point here, and this is not anything new. We've seen this war on Judeo-Christian values going on for some time now, and you could certainly make the argument that it appears that lawmakers, especially, are making this as difficult and as painful as possible. And we have people who make the argument that church isn't essential. It is essential that they need that for themselves, for their spirit.
They've shuttered our schools. They've traumatized our children. They've released convicts into our streets. And now they want to litigate against churches.
Pastor McCoy says he previously followed the recommended CDC guidelines at the height of the pandemic with social distancing, masks, and thorough cleaning inside the church.
People are sick of this, and we didn't ask for this fight. They were the ones who came after us.
Sheriff's officials didn't disrupt any services or cite any parishioners. In fact, Pastor McCoy said the only ticket issued,
not any parishioner. The only ticket that was issued was a disturbance of the peace by that Antifa individual.
The pastor vows to continue holding church services here and is prepared for the long legal fight ahead.
They also did a planned coin shortage back in June of this year.
Local businesses need to adapt as the pandemic causes a nationwide coin shortage. But it's not just businesses.
Kind of like, wait a minute, they're taking away our change. But when you understand why, it's because of the coronavirus pandemic, then that's where it starts to make a little sense.
Some businesses, if they're open, might not accept currency in the first place or have adequate coins to make change.
The nation's largest grocery store chain announcing it will stop giving coins as change.
Wendy Larson says she went to Walmart on Wednesday for her mother, who only carries cash. She had no idea there was a coin shortage and found out at the register. In some cases, the Council Bluffs Walmarts are telling people before they come in.
No cash payments today, cards only.
Or they're putting up signs.
I can see it being an inconvenience to some people, yes. Well, because some people only pay with cash, some people don't have cards yet. I don't know. Yeah, so it just kind of depends, I suppose, on the person.
Personally, I think most people use credit cards anymore. I'm strictly cash. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of scary. I mean, I've never seen that before. I'm not sure what to think of.
Larson says she's still using cash elsewhere and wonders why there isn't more publicity about the coin shortage or who is only taking cards. She says she doesn't know if she'll go back to Walmart if this continues.
The Federal Reserve believes the coin shortage will be resolved and more coins will be back in circulation once more of the economy reopens.
In the midst of the resurgence of coronavirus cases around the nation, more and more people are looking to move to a cashless society. Well, that means that fewer people worldwide are handling cash and more are either using credit cards or debit cards, online shopping, or they're looking to use digital currencies. Well, ATM use is down 32%. And according to Visa, 63% of people are using less cash. But there could be more reasons for this than just germs.
Welcome to a cashless society. Cashless society, here we come. Digital, here we go. Well, things have to change. Just like from silver and gold to fake paper, it's got to go in one direction. Let's just hope it's not the start of the mark of the beast.
Well, microchips could be coming to your place of employment. State lawmakers are now working to stop the move before businesses have their say. Brody Carter joins us live now and more on the freedoms you could lose if the bill doesn't pass. Brody.
Well, House Bill 5672 was drafted to protect citizens from science fiction. That's at least what one Michigan state representative says as she's starting this conversation on microchips in the workplace.
RFID microchips are nothing new. We chip our pets to identify them if they're lost or stolen. This small chip, only the size of a grain of rice, embedded underneath the skin. But as State Representative Brana Kali understands it, people are becoming the test subjects. Before COVID-19, chipping parties were the hottest story in the news. Companies in Europe and the U.S. inserting microchips into employees to open doors, store information, even buy snacks from vending machines.
It's a very simple and basic and straightforward bill that prohibits employers from forcing an employee to be chipped or microchipped, as it would be called, as a condition of employment.
Saying the bill is a proactive measure as technology continues to evolve.
Michigan is not alone. Other states working on similar legislation include New Jersey and Iowa.
A pregnant woman has been charged with incitement after police raided her Ballarat home. The 28-year-old live-streamed her arrest on Facebook after allegedly encouraging friends to attend a lockdown protest.
The former cleaner turned candle maker has posted that COVID is a hoax, and police allege she was behind an anti-lockdown demonstration similar to those planned in major cities across the world this Saturday.
Even the central bank is creating a digital currency.
In fact, the central bank is creating a digital currency. Does it lead to a cashless society?
And these are called CBDCs, central banking digital currencies. And as money moves digital and turns digital, and there is a new technology, the financial technology, that allows organizations, entities to actually use the computer program for their currencies to go digital.
Back in August 2020, the US put an executive order ban 2 Chinese apps like WeChat, and WeChat is very essential in China, leading way to the cashless society.
Welcome back to Squawk Box. Last week, the president signed an executive order that would effectively ban WeChat in the United States. The app is extremely popular, as you know, in China and for American companies that do business in China.
If you're living in China, it's almost impossible to survive without WeChat. It's a super app. People use it to pay for their taxi ride to work and their morning cup of coffee. I can also sort all my utility bills, shop, and message a friend about my purchase. And I even use WeChat to prove I'm in good health amid the pandemic by scanning a health code. I don't have WeChat. He says I can't go in. WeChat has an estimated 700 million users in China, so it's important for any business here too. And of course, there are privacy concerns. Politically sensitive content is monitored on the platform, as well as all platforms in China. But when I speak to businesses here, Andrew, most people say that there's a certain assumption that whatever they write is not private.
Both the US and China want the same agenda, but they want to lead way for this new world order, and there can only be one.
I think it's very likely because the pressure is certainly mounting for the U.S. to create this CBDC, as its biggest competitor in the tech arms race just recently began testing its own digital currency that will be launched on WeChat and Alipay. So for U.S., this means that they will fall further behind. They've already lost the battle over 5G to China, so now it's going to be digital currencies, which essentially will command the future of international capital flows. So right now, that's the U.S.'s biggest concern, because if China launches their digital RMB successfully, this would result in a widespread adoption of the digital RMB to be used in emerging markets and international trade. So countries would no longer be dependent and beholden to the dollar. So a lot of this, what's driving this decision right now is FOMO, fear of missing out. And it's kind of important to note that in these committee hearings, the discussions are now revolving around how rather than if the U.S. should put together a CBDC.
And the supposed leaders of the world are just puppets in place.
So in this context, and in my position as head of the IMF, I would like to explore 3 particular areas. First, I want to frame the issue in terms of the changing nature of money and the fintech revolution. Second, I would like to evaluate the role of central banks in this new financial landscape, especially in relation to providing digital currency. And third, I would like to look at the downsides, the risks, if you will, and consider how they can be minimized. Let me begin with the big issue, the change of money. How is money changing? Bank deposit, too, is feeling the pressure from new forms of money. Think of the new specialized payment providers that offer e-money. From Alipay to WeChat in China, to PayTM in India, to M-Pesa in Kenya. These forms of money are designed with the digital economy in mind. They respond to what people demand and what the economy requires. Even cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Ripple are vying for a spot in the cashless world, constantly reinventing themselves in the hope of offering more stable value and quicker and cheaper settlement. Let me now turn to my second issue. What is the role of the state? What is the role of a central bank in that new monetary landscape? Some suggest that the state should back off, should back down. Providers of e-money argue that they are less risky than banks because they do not lend money. Instead, they hold client funds in custodian accounts and simply settle payments within the network. For their part, cryptocurrencies seek to anchor trust in technology. And as long as they are transparent and you are techie savvy, you might trust their services. Still, I'm not entirely convinced. Proper regulation of these entities will remain a pillar of trust. Now, should we go further? Beyond regulation, should the state remain an active player in the market for money? Should it fill the void left by the retreat of cash? Let me be more specific. Should central banks issue a new digital form of money? A state-backed token, or perhaps an account held directly at the central bank and available to people and firms for retail payments, to each of you. True, your deposits in commercial banks are already digital, but a digital currency would be a liability of the state, like cash today. Not of a private firm, the central bank, the state. And this is not science fiction. There are central banks around the world that are considering this option. In countries like Canada, like China, like Sweden, like Uruguay. And they are embracing change and new thinking, as indeed we are at the IMF. The second benefit of digital currency relates to security and consumer protection. And this is really a David versus Goliath argument. In the old days, coins and paper notes may have checked the dominant position of the large global payment firms, banks, clearing houses, and network operators, simply by offering a low-cost and widely available alternative. Without cash, too much power would fall into the hands of a small number of outsized private payment providers. Payments, after all, naturally lean towards monopolies. The more people you serve, the cheaper and the more useful the service. We are seeing it in many countries already. For a start, private firms may underinvest in security to the extent that they do not measure the full cost to society of a payment failure. Resilience may also suffer. With only a few links in the payment chains, the system may stop working if any of the link actually is deteriorating, if there is a glitch, a bankruptcy, or a firm withdrawals from the market. Now you will say, what the state does well is regulate, but regulation simply might not be able to fully redress these downsides. A digital currency could offer advantages as a backstop means of payment.
And the dollar is very strong, and people are investing in the dollar. They want, the fact that we have the strong currency. We have the currency. Our currency is everything. And other companies, other countries want to be in our currency. So we're getting all of the investment wanting to come into the dollar. The dollar is the strength. The dollar is the whole ballgame. We have a strong dollar.